here's the problem. Their leaders are too smart for our leaders. We're getting killed at the border. We're getting killed on trade. Nabisco is moving in from Chicago. They're closing their big plant. They're moving in. You look at Ford. Ford's building a massive, massive car complex there. That means they're closing places in Michigan, great places, Michigan and other places, and they're closing and they're going to Mexico. We can't let that happen. The other day, Carrier announced air conditioners. I buy Carrier air conditioners. They're good air conditioners. I'm not buying them anymore. They announced 1,400 men and women are being laid off, and somebody had the cell phone going, right? A lot of you saw that. Big, big story. 1,400. And this manager was, well, ladies and gentlemen, we are closing our plant. We're moving to Mexico. Bye-bye. He was pretty tough. This was not a guy with social grace, believe me. So they're going to move to Mexico. So here's what we have to do, folks. Mitt Romney said, we have to keep free trade, right? Well, if we keep free trade the way we have it now, we're not going to have any companies left at all. And you people know more about NAFTA than anybody, okay? Anybody, because you know how you were stripped with NAFTA, which was a disaster. But we're going to do something much different. We're going to be smart people now, okay? I built a tremendous fortune. And believe me, I started off with very little. You know, they like to say, oh, my father. If my father would have given me $200 million. In fact, my sister and brother called me up. They said, Don, what are they kidding? These people are such liars. I borrowed a tiny amount of money, started something, and now it's worth billions and billions and billions of dollars. And I will tell you something. With the Carrier plant, what you have to do is you have to be smart. So this isn't free trade. We have to have smart trade. China charges tremendous tariffs and taxes when you want to sell. I have a friend who's a manufacturer. He makes great product. He puts it into China, they send it back. Puts it in again, they send it back. A third time, they take it, but he has to pay a tremendous tax. He sees me. He goes, oh, Donald, you have no idea how tough it is to negotiate with China. They don't want the product, and when they take the product, they charge you a tax. That's not the way it's supposed to. That's not free trade. Now, China, when they sell their product to us, no tax. Come on in, folks. Take our jobs, everything else. No tax, no nothing. Not going to work that way. Mexico, the same thing. So Ford goes out, builds this $2.5 billion plant. They're going to make cars, trucks, and parts, right? And they're going to send them into our country. No tax. Where is that good for us? So when I watch a guy like Romney, who truly is a lightweight, when you watch a guy like Mitt Romney, no, think of it. He's talking about trade. And I love free trade. I am a free trader. You know, a lot of the conservatives, they say, Donald Trump does not like free trade. Isn't that terrible? I want smart trade. I want trade where at least there's an even balance, right? I don't want to be losing $500 billion a year. I don't want to be losing $58 billion a year. I want to make money or I want to break even at worst, okay? So I tell people, if you had like lightweight Rubio as president, he's all controlled by the special interests, 100%. He gets all his money. Remember, I'm self-funding. They're not paying me anything. So he gets his money. If you have a guy like Ted Cruz getting a lot of money from oil and other places, okay? So, I mean, honestly, that's the way life works. So what happens is oil, 100%. They'll get a lobbyist that took care, 100%. They're not going to do anything. Me, it's different. So here's what I do. Tell Carrier, tell Ford, tell whoever wants to listen. And it's the only way you can do it, folks. The only way we're going to stop this tremendous outflow of companies is the following. And by the way, Pfizer, great, massive company, drug company, pharmaceutical company, leaving, going to Ireland. Wonderful. That's wonderful. But you're not going to take advantage of us, okay? You're not going to take advantage of us. So here's what happens. Let's use Carrier as an example. I know it's not presidential. In fact, my wife called just before. She said, darling, would you please react presidentially? Be presidential. Like you were the other night when you had all those victories. You stood on the stage and everybody liked it. I said, yeah, but I have incoming. When you have incoming, you can't be too presidential. You have, right? Does that make sense? I said, I have incoming. So here's what happens. There's a lot of truth to that. They said, act presidential tonight. I said, I'll act presidential, but if somebody hits me, I'm going to hit him back harder. Right? So what happens, you know, it's one of those things. So what happens is they will not do anything because the lobbyists will call, say, you cannot do anything to Carrier, you cannot do anything to Ford. And they'll say, oh, okay, they gave you a $2 million contribution or a $5 million contribution. You can't touch them. They've been very loyal to you. They've been very good. And they'll go, all right, okay, good. That's the end of that, right? All those jobs gone. Here's what I do. I call up, and I'd like to use one of my guys. You know, Carl Icahn, great businessman, he endorsed me. Many of the great businessmen endorse me, and women. I have a lot of endorsements from business. I'd announce them, except nobody cares. But these are the most important people in a sense, because I will use the greatest minds. We have the greatest business people, the greatest negotiators in the world. But this is so easy. I want to sort of do it myself, but it's so unpresidential for me to be calling up Kerry. I'm the President of the United States. And I call up. I say, hi, Donald Trump, President of the United States. I hope you enjoy your stay in Mexico. I hope you build a beautiful, beautiful factory, beautiful plant. And I really want to wish you well. But let me just tell you something. You moved out. You hurt 1,400 people. These people were devastated, by the way. I watched it. And they've done a great job. You've hurt 1,400 people. And there's no free trade because it's a totally imbalance. I mean, their politicians are so much sharper and smarter and streetwise than ours. I said, here's the story. Every air conditioning unit that you make, and every single air conditioning unit that you make and comes across the border into the United States, we're going to charge you a 35% tax, okay? 35% tax. And that's it. Now, here's what happens, okay? As sure as you're standing here, look, they're going to call their lobbies. Oh, you got to speak to the president. You got to, but they can't speak to me. I didn't take any of their money. I don't want their money, right? So that's not going to work. Here's what's going to happen. As sure as you're here, they're going to call me up within 24 hours. They're going to say, Mr. President, do you have any second thoughts? I say, absolutely not. They say, sir, we've decided to stay in the United States. So, very simple. We've decided. Now, we can be cute and we can say we're coming up with all, you know, in Washington, they're playing around with all sorts of formulas. There's no formula. That's the formula. So when Mitt made the statement, he said, he will ruin free trade. Ruin free trade. If I'm losing $505 billion with China, if I'm losing $58 billion a year with Mexico in terms of deficits, what do I want that kind of trade for anyway? Ruin it. Who needs that kind of trade? Seriously, who needs that kind of trade? Now, Mitt admitted that I'm a much better businessman than him, and I am. I'm a much, much, much better businessman than him. We will actually have better relationships with Mexico. We will have better relationships with China. They'll respect us. They don't respect us now. They think we're the dumbest people on earth, led by the world's dumbest people. Now, look, let me just tell you something. China, in the South China Sea, is building a massive military fort with runways and a tremendous complex. They're not supposed to be doing that. They didn't tell us. They have no respect for our country. With me, I'm going to rip up those trade deals and we're going to make really good ones. And by the way, we have the cards, just so you understand. Remember, I wrote The Art of the Deal, which is, in all fairness, I think the #1 selling business book of all time. But just remember this. We have the cards. We have rebuilt China with the money they've taken out of our country for many years, in all fairness. We have, I call it the greatest single theft in the history of the world, what China has done to our country. You go to China, they have trains that go 300 miles an hour. We have trains that go chug, 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 and then they have to stop because the track split, right? They have trains that go 300 miles an hour. They have trains, Japan, China, a lot of countries. We're like third world. You go to our airports, you go to LaGuardia, you land and you go to Dubai, and you go to Qatar, and you go to different places in Asia, and you see airports like you've never seen. Then you come home, you land at Kennedy, you land at LAX, you land at LaGuardia. Oh, LaGuardia, with the potholes all over the place, okay? I mean, it's just a very sad thing what's happened. What's happened to our country is very, very, very sad. So we're going to make it a lot better, and we're going to make it different. And we're going to get rid of those horrible trade deals because, let me tell you, at some point, it's going to burst. At some point, we can't continue to lose $500 billion with individual countries. We can't continue. You add it up. Whether it's India, whether it's Vietnam, whether it's anybody, every single country in the world that deals with us takes advantage of the stupidity of the United States.